Hey, what's going on, fellas? Welcome to She Unleashed Venus Homecoming Part 4. I know, the title's called She Unleashed and I'm addressing the fellas, but this is like the bonus part. This is Part 4. The first three parts were for the ladies, but this one's all about for the men. To be honest, a lot of this is going to be about 70% of it's probably going to be how you can support women, how you can support the ladies in their empowerment. There's this picture of Marilyn Monroe on the floor back here. I didn't put that there on purpose. It was just kind of there, and it's pretty poetic. It's pretty perfect. But if this is your first time watching, if you're a woman, you can watch this too. It's totally cool. Share it with the fellas. But what I did was I went into a three-part series. The first three parts were basically just covering Venus at the end of Aries and Venus coming and going through its home sign of Taurus and the importance of some of the astrology transits that were going on during that time and what that means for women and men as well, and how this is just a really significant time that can be used to make some really deep changes in your life. Everybody's like looking to be happy, I hope, right? Everybody could always use a little bit more happiness or financial abundance, a lifestyle change, a relationship change, just feeling good about the self, maybe a career change. But it's like astrology can tell us when's a good time for these things. Because I'm going to be honest, as a man, sometimes I have a tendency to just like want to go and be like, this is what I want, and I want to force it. And I just want to go get it. And I don't want to have to wait. Sometimes when I get an idea, I want to do it right away, but I've learned I'm the type of person that actually, if I'm not patient, I can actually sabotage it too soon. It would be like, I don't know, trying to build an oil rig out in the ocean on spaghetti noodles or something. Like, it just doesn't have its foundation yet. We've got to anchor these things in to make sure that before we go somewhere that we not only know what we're doing, where we're going, but to make sure, are we doing this? This is important. Are we doing this because we think that it's going to create a sense of self-worth? That when we get to the goal, then we'll be happy, then we'll feel better about ourselves? Are we doing it just because it sounds amazing and it feels congruent with who we are as an individual? Because it is all about the journey, right? If not, it's coming from a place of lack. And how many more times can we chase these capital gains outside of ourselves, fellas, where we think that the external validation sources, the outside achievement, is the true gold standard recognition of who we are as a man? I'm here to tell you it's not. I've been on both sides of the coin, and coming back to like the more of the external achievement world after doing more of that deep inner spiritual emotional work, awareness. And I can tell you that it's a world of difference, like when you come at it from more of that pure standpoint. So part 4, this is actually going to just, it's kind of crazy. I didn't know how I wanted to do part 4, but the way that I'm actually going to be doing this, I'll adjust my camera a little, is I'm really just going to be covering this weekend, April 10th, 11th, and then the 12th into Monday. That's going to be part 4. I may keep going with some videos here and there, specifically for the fellas, and just other things that can kind of like come up. Thanks, dog. That's my dog. Her name's Martha, by the way. Crazy story. But I just wanted to focus on this weekend for the fellas. I don't want to overwhelm with information, because here's the thing. Maybe you guys don't want the technical terms, maybe you do, but Venus is the planet of love. Venus is very feminine in nature. It's relationships, self-worth, confidence, skill set, feeling good physically in the body. And it's in Aries, which is a masculine zodiac sign. And not to be confused with natal chart stuff, like people's, when they say like, what's your sign? Like, this is like current astrology, like how it's affecting everybody. And so when you have Venus in Aries, she wants to feel independent. Like, she doesn't want, it's almost like she wants to be empowered in her egoic masculine nature, as men and women all have masculine and feminine energies, right? It's like, it was It was feminine energy when I was like washing my face in the shower today, or putting my clothes on. We don't wash our face like this. I mean, at least I don't. But when it's in areas like that, I think it's really women. I think women are asking for men to kind of boost them up and empower them a little bit. Not in a way like that they're weak and that they need help. It's more like, yeah, yeah, girl, like get down with your bad self, like be empowered, like do the things that you have to do to feel good about yourself and your self-worth, your ability to manifest and make money. This is all about getting out of old school, toxic masculine stuff, even though it apparently is a trigger word, but it's like, it's not controlling the woman or, giving over advice giving or trying to make decisions for her. It's like, let her say how she's feeling, what's she up to, what's her creative pursuits, what is she like when it comes to art and beauty and clothing and just things like that. It's just being very supportive and understanding. And it's making what's called a square over to Pluto and Capricorn. So Capricorn is that energy that's all about the outward achievement that I was talking about, business, financial goals, just climbing the proverbial mountain. And Pluto's a planet of deep transformation. It's like death and rebirth, where cycles end and new ones begin, right? It could be, a job ending. That's a Pluto thing. A relationship ending. It could be an actual death. It could be cutting off a source of income. But then, some things have to die for new things to come in, right? We know that. We can't just like, even when you go to the buffet, it's like even the people that stack their plate up like this high, they can't fit the whole buffet on there, right? They're still got to go back for seconds or thirds. And so a lot of this is like about restriction energy of like, what do you want to put on your plate, fellas? And I would say, when you look around in the world right now and you see how weird things are and how things are changing, I think it behooves us to like really pay attention to the love in our partnerships, as COVID, I think, was a wake-up call for probably a lot of couples, about where they were really at in terms of the connection in their partnership. And so what better way to use this weekend than to like look at how are you adjusting the narrative of how you approach your relationship life, but then also even just how you take care of yourself. Because the thing is that, and I've been detoxing this, metaphorically speaking, myself, as someone who's in a romantic relationship, a serious one, and one where I'm a father. I've been a single dad for 8 years, and so I didn't really realize just how much like I was giving, and giving to clients and people on social media, trying to, put inspirational messages out, and just how little I was taking back for myself and taking care of myself. And so a lot of times my cup would run dry, and then it's like the only thing I have to give people is almost like my half of my mental attention, and then maybe some like physical presence, but not like a deeper heartfelt connection, which is what people are ultimately seeking, especially children. Like that's where the term quality time comes from. It's like true attention and engagement on more of a joyful level. And so I think this is a time for the fellas to get down to the bottom of their self-care routine. It could be, looking at, sometimes because we do look a lot outside ourselves as like, well, I'm going to do this thing only if it makes sense, and only if it gets me money or recognition with Pluto and Capricorn, or, make something happen in a relationship. But this is also more about getting down to a deeper truth within us that's like, this is a long journey. Like, I mean, what are we going to do? Like, are we paying attention to how our body feels? I mean, we're talking about Venus. Like, does the body feel good? Are you aching in places? Do you have chronic pain? Like, that's not fucking normal. I'm just here to tell you, like, these doctors in Western culture, I'm not going to bash them too bad, but it's a cultural thing to think that like it's okay to be on pain meds and to have chronic pain. And it's almost like sometimes it'd be something to talk about. Like people talk about what's going on with their body and their health, and it's like this back and forth of, oh yeah, my foot's doing this or my back's doing this, and it's like, get down to the bottom of it. And so a lot of this getting down to the bottom of it is, I think, for the dudes, it's like starting with just a simple, self-care routine of like, what do you got to do? Meditation practice, journaling, take a bath once a week, whatever it is. And that it doesn't, it can maybe feel uncomfortable because it doesn't feel manly or something like that, or it's not like moving forward and getting things done, and maybe you feel like overly responsible for like your family members or for bringing home the bacon, the proverbial bacon. Not to offend women, because they're obviously doing that too, but a man just like takes on that like extra sense of duty for that oftentimes in American culture. And so this is just the understanding of balance. Like Pluto wants to get down to the truth of like, are you actually feeling good about what it is that you're creating in your life? Does your body feel good? Do you feel good about the money that you make and receive? Do you know how to receive? That's been a big one for me. Receiving energy is someone giving you a compliment and you actually not actually being able to almost take a breath, put your hand on your heart, and like actually feel like the goodness of like what someone's giving you, as opposed to just being like, thank you, and just like almost feeling like uncomfortable and kind of almost like already ready to move on to the next part of the conversation. Because if you can't receive, then it's like no matter how much work you put in or what you do, it's never going to feel enough, because Venus wants to receive for the quality work that she puts in. It's like the term blood money kind of comes up a little bit, like blood, sweat, and tears money. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. Venus also can teach us with a square to Pluto of like, where for men are they thinking about making money from more of a survival standpoint with Pluto and Capricorn, versus can you actually start to explore like what your innate talents are that people have always told you that you're good at in your life, and go that route. Maybe some people tell you you're a really good advice giver, so it's like, I don't know, maybe you become a therapist or something, and maybe you were like a construction worker before. I mean, I was a construction manager before I started doing personal training and coaching and astrology and breath work and nutrition and all these different things that I do for people. But it's like, sometimes we want to put these things off too. Like Capricorn deals a lot with time, and Pluto's the truth. It's like, where it's like, there never is like a right time. Like there's only the present moment that's going to influence, how you feel about the past, but then also like what happens in the future. And so like waiting for something to change in the world with the South Node in Sagittarius, this is where people can almost like delay their life from moving on, or for like an overinflated sense of optimism for something to shift economically with COVID. Hopefully nobody's waiting for whoever the next president's going to be the next election. That's just crazy, like, not, because Capricorn is also like the patriarchy of like government. So it's like, are you facing the truth of like, you can feel good no matter who the president is? Like that shit doesn't matter as much as you think it does. It just doesn't, Venus is telling us you can find love in every hard situation, like no matter what you're in, no matter what you're going through. Like, I'm not here to tell you that this is all sunshine and rainbows like this life. I know it's not, but if you can hone in on the fact that there's a deeper embedded truth that, yeah, there's shadow things out there, but they're not meant to be condemned. They're meant to be looked at as like, oh, that person's going through some shit. So was I, or so am I. It's creating relatability. I think a lot of this could be for men of like exposing the truth on maybe more of a public place, about like what's really going on with them on the side of how they feel. You know, how do you really feel, fellas? Are we talking about this, or are we being ashamed of how we're feeling? I think it's time to open up about that stuff. This also, I think, could potentially bring up, if you really want to dive deep, I would say, because Venus is feminine, Aries is masculine, Pluto wants to get down to the truth. Pretty much all the blocks that come up in relationships stem from our parents, parental wounds. So we call it the feminine wound and the masculine wound. And so, you know what? I was just talking about vulnerability, so I'll just share. It's like earlier I was moving through on the feminine aspect, having a beautiful, beautiful partnership. And I was noticing that there were some places where I didn't feel like I could love as fully as I could. And what I realized was that I had some resentment from other past relationships, or even just other women in general, or my mother. And I've worked a lot on that stuff with the mom. It's important because things, as I said, stem back to that. But it's like, I realized a couple of weeks ago that it's like, wow, like if I have one judgment against any woman, I'm putting them all down. You know, if you look out in the world and you say, I don't know, Miley Cyrus is a whore or slut or whatever, you're condemning your daughter or your wife just as much as you are her. Because essentially what you're saying is that you don't have unconditional love for the people in your life, because if they ever behave like that, that your love would become conditional and you would withdraw it. It's something to really think about. You know, people have personal values. Uranus and Taurus, it's like you can't expect everybody to have the same values as you. You can't expect every person in a political party to have the same values. You can't expect every race or, you know, income bracket or whatever. And that's what makes the world beautiful, like a melting pot. But South Node and Sag, people want to like project their belief systems and shit and be like, they need to do this and they need to believe that. That will make the world better. It's like, no, like the non-judgment and acceptance of letting people do their thing and working on yourself and your love and forgiving yourself for anything that you feel that you've done wrong in your life. That's the change. So, you know, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but essentially like what I realized was like, oh, wow, like, yeah, I just have to like really truly like own it in my heart. Like I love all women and offering them all more love and kindness, you know, genuinely. And I'll tell you, that shift on how I felt about my girlfriend, massive, very massive seismic shift. Then on the masculine front, I realized where there's a lot of like forcing things and control. You know, Mars in Aries energy is masculine. It wants to move forward. It wants to push forward. On this day, we're actually starting to see the sun make a nice aspect called a sextile, which the sun is in Aries, over to Mars. And so this is where we're very mentally stimulated to want to move forward. We're excited. We want to push. But it's also the understanding that with Venus in Aries, it's like, yeah, push forward, but do you feel good? Like, do you feel good as you're moving forward, or is it stressing you out? Do you feel like you need to like get somewhere so then you can rest, or are you able to find the peace and harmony as you're busy and getting things done, as you're showing up? Mercury, the moon are also in Aries, so this is what's called a stellium in astrology. It means just a lot of energy, like our minds and our emotions as we're building into a new moon, so a new cycle, a new start where we can start new projects, or at least really just hammer it in there. It reminds me like all this Aries energy would be like someone that never does like paper or scissors. They're just always rock. They're like, I don't care. Like I'm rock every time. it's like, how can you move forward? And I think a lot of this is like feeling good about like what you want to move towards, but not burning yourself out. Remember, like this is a long haul. Like the turtle's going to win the race on this one. But it's also like knowing what you're after and not letting your sensitivities of how things look slow you down with Chiron and Aries. Like we're actually past that. So you almost have to, I don't know, it reminds me of like if someone, I don't know, said a cuss word on the public transportation, you turn around to like chew the person out or something for saying a cuss word. It's like, really? Like, are you really gonna be that person that like gets negative for someone for saying a cuss word? Like, do you kind of see how that gets a little weird and doesn't make sense? It's like, don't create havoc where like there doesn't need to be, and it's just like move forward with like what's in front of you and what you want to go after. This letting go of control and the pressure that we put on ourselves comes from knowing where you want to go towards, feeling really good about it, being patient with it, but then also like when you feel like good and you're tuning into a deeper space, meaning that like it's not so much like of a thinking analytical of like, well, if I do this and then all these facts make sense. It's like, yeah, the facts got to be there, the logic has to be there, but are you coming at it from a place of lack? Do you know your self-worth? Do you feel good about doing it, or does it feel like you're doing it to survive, or you're doing it because you think you have to do it? You know, the more pressure that you feel on things that you're looking and doing, or your everyday work life, or your relationships, or whatever it is, like that pressure, the only pressure should be the pressure to like make a deep change, honestly, within the self at the way you approach your goals, not repeating the same patterns over and over again of pressuring yourself into situations when you know that a few more years of that, you're just going to be probably feeling pretty run down, even if it's just mentally and emotionally, not physically. This is the kind of thing where we don't want to keep pressuring ourselves so much because we've got a long road ahead of us, but it can be a longer, more positive, happy road actually when you at least slow down enough to kind of read the signs on the side of the road. It's like, or at least give it your attention. It's like, you can go 60 miles an hour down the road and still read all the road signs and pay attention to when it's time to slow down for some ducks crossing the road or something like that. You know, like there's going to be those times. Maybe it's like your kid running in the room to show you something, or to have your attention, or your wife walks in the room, or your girlfriend, or you know, the phone rings and you weren't expecting a call, or like whatever it is. Like, we don't have to just like push so hard to get to like an end goal that we, because the weird thing is that I've been in this situation before in my life, and up until really recently, where it's like if I'm just like, I want to do something, I know I want to do it, but then if I start pushing too hard and be like, I'm only going to feel fulfilled if this gets done, and I force it so much, number one, I'm not happy with the outcome, and then number two, I'm not really fulfilled at the end of the day, because I'm like, well, I did it, but it didn't go the way I wanted it to. Things go the way that we want them to when we feel good. When there's feeling not enough, or fear, anxiety present, things don't go well. It's like all the best leaders, all the best captains operate well under pressure. If you want a great comparisons, like go watch any of the Avenger movies with Captain America, and then go watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and just, I don't want to give anything away, but just see how some of the leadership in that show is going. You know, there's a big difference between the original Captain America and how he came from a place of heart, and coming at things from a place of like stress and anxiety and just, I got to get it done, and like mentally needing to make it happen. Things don't go well. that control breaks us. It breaks us, man. This, and you know, I'm gonna look at the camera when I say this. This is the cause. This is my battery's getting low. This is the cause of mental health issues, depression. It's the pressure that men put on themselves, and they don't slow down enough to find out what the fuck is going on with them internally, because we're not taught to do that. Which, by the way, if you need help with that, reach out to me, because that's what I'm helping men with doing. I had to be a self-starter and learn that for myself. Not with talk therapy, because there's a time and a place for that, but I'm talking actually like getting to know myself and not being afraid of my feminine side, of taking care of myself, of knowing what's best for me, which what's best for me is also best for my family too. It's like that old saying, you know, the oxygen mask, like you put yours on first, then you help the person next to you when the plane's going down. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm feeling pretty complete. I think all in all, fellas, it's an opportunity to dive deep within yourself, to do some deep transformation this weekend. Get out the journal if you don't know where to start. You know, write yourself a letter. Ask yourself how you're doing. Send me a message. Reach out to a friend, whatever. The things to look at are what's really going on in your partnerships. Are you really happy? How are you showing up to them? How can you support the women in your life to be the best that they can be, which is them expressing themselves authentically, fully, feeling good about themselves, letting them step into a sense of leadership, career, family, individually, whatever it is. Moms, sisters, daughters, girlfriends, wives, whatever, strangers. And then, you know, are you happy with the money, the way you're making your money? How's your body feeling? Do you still feel pissed off at some women in your life or from your past? Take care of that shit right now. That's number one. I would say number two is, when it comes to men's mental and emotional health, I think that creating an opportunity with your current partner, or finding a partner that lets you be vulnerable and say what's really going on, is probably the best petri dish I can recommend for growing a man who's actually in tune with his awareness of what's going on. And so then he's not coming at things from a toxic, reactive, aggressive, violent, angry, depressive side of himself, or even anxiety. And then when it comes to letting go of control, I'll be honest, that's not an easy one. I'm still learning that one. But what I can tell you is that the easiest way to learn how to let go of control is to probably develop some sense of higher faith. It doesn't have to be a religion or a belief system. In fact, I don't even recommend that, especially right now. I think it has more to do with, honestly, it could literally be taking a knee in front of the spot in your home that you put the fucking Christmas tree, and just saying from a very deep, deep committed place, like, God, I want to know who you really are, or how I can help, or how you can help me or help my family, and not being ashamed of receiving help from others, not being afraid to open up and make changes within the self, or in your financial, career, project situation, in your partnerships. So, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. For the ladies that watch, thank you for watching as well. We'll see what comes up down the road, what I want to keep doing, but I wanted to really focus in on, especially this weekend. And, you know, for the ladies, I went into 3 parts to kind of show like the incentive of like transforming through this weekend. Whereas the fellas, it's like, I think it's just kind of a little bit of shit or get off the pot energy. And like, I can just tell you that the benefits of doing this are probably more than what you can even like really honestly imagine, which is probably why I didn't feel like compelled to go into it. Because sure, I mean, it's this work is going to transform your health. It is going to transform your feeling good about your financial situation, your relationships, your self-worth, confidence, your mindset, you know, getting out of any mental funks and stuff like that, like moving forward. At the end of the day too, Pluto square Venus is teaching us that, yeah, it sucks not feeling good, but you know what really sucks is like not eating the whole, I don't know, corn dog or popsicle and leaving a little bit on the stick when you know you could have enjoyed all of it, even though corn dogs suck, if I'm being real. Kid likes them though. But it's like, we're going to leave this earth someday anyway, and there's weekends like this that showcase that, yeah, it's not the end all be all, you know, of that you're never going to get an opportunity to change or grow or something like that. But it does point out where there are these opportunities, and there's an opportunity cost to going deep and doing this inner work to change things, especially in our partnerships, but in ourselves as well, because it's the change starts within. And so it's like, can you live life to the fullest? Can you take everything down to the stick? Can you really finish the whole popsicle, the whole corn dog? And or did you leave a little bit behind because you were secretly scared? Like, men don't want to admit when they're scared, or like it feels like cowardly or weak, but it's like the biggest cowardice that I would see out there is being afraid of like what's going on internally. And I've been in these situations where sometimes we don't know where to start. We're like, something feels off. We try to describe it, or we feel confused or demotivated and just almost like kind of irritable and pissed off. But that's because the mind and the body and the heart are disconnected from each other. The central nervous system, you know, feeling safe to look within at what's really going on. And I'd say one of the easiest ways to like recreate those connections, if you're missing that, if you're feeling that way, is to get into the body through movement. It could be going bowling, go to the gym more, go running. Do any physical activities that get you out of the mind for a little bit. Spend more time in nature, go hunting if you're a hunter. It could be a lot of things, but doing that provides what I call a sort of financial reset, where in the mind we can start worrying about things being finite. Not enough money, not enough time, feeling pressured, got to figure things out. When you disconnect and you get into the body, the mind almost gets an opportunity to go into a space of recuperation, because the mind's even doing a cleanup process when we sleep, so that's not enough. Like, we need waking hours where we're not in our heads all the time trying to figure out how to move forward. And hopefully today gave you a sense of like how that can be done. So appreciate you all. You guys take care.